Good morning. Happy July 3rd. I am taking a break. I'm 2/3 through Hamilton live streaming on, or not live streaming, but streaming on Disney. I'm 2/3 through my first viewing, taking a break to come to you for our weekly Rich Witch connection. Didn't really promote today much because I was busy watching Hamilton, so we'll see if anybody joins us. I am your host, Morgana Ray, and I have been a mentor, coach, and best-selling author for, it's over 26 years now. And I am focusing, hello. We have people joining us. So I've been focusing during this horrible pandemic on connection. It's really an interesting time because the news, I catch some breath, and then the next wave here in the United States is very dramatic, just of the infection and the death, and the science denial of what's going on is just heartbreaking. And then I'm in this idyllic little bubble in my home of just so happy in my marriage, focusing on life. And I'm actually really appreciating that this notion of wealth. And I have to tell you, especially in the personal development field, with all of the spirituality speak, behind the scenes, there is so much posturing about wealth and acquisition and mansions, and it's ridiculous. And honestly, if you have a home, if you have food, if you have health, especially if you have health, if you have love in your life, that is wealth, period. Doesn't matter how many zeros and decimal points and commas you have in your bank account. You can, I was being interviewed on a podcast, The 7-Figure Club, earlier this week. Loved the host, really fun, nice, engaging opportunity to spread the word. And I was talking about, I've coached clients with millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and the same issues, the same insecurities, the same fears, the same loneliness, the same drama. And I've coached a billionaire, and without peace of mind and happy, loving relationships and a feeling of security in the world, it's just a higher level of poverty. So really, truly, if we have a safe place to be, and if you don't, I want you to have one very, very soon, and food and health and love, everything else is frosting, or everything else is commentary. So what I've been focusing on, and drop in a question. Hello, Zach. Hello, Michelle. Drop in a question at any time. I do have a couple of things that I do want to cover today. And I'm going to start with what I've really been focusing on is life. It's sort of, my mother called herself a weed witch. It's not an accident that I was named Morgana. My mom is a witch by her own definition. And as a weed witch, she's an amazing herbalist and teaches classes on herbalism. And her husband's a pharmacist. So I grew up with a very healthy respect for both. And when I get sick, I usually start with the vitamins and the herbs and all the holistic practices. But I gotta tell you, when I take medicine, it is magic. And what I haven't shared is that I have had a recurring dry cough and trouble breathing for 4 months. Normally, that would mean nothing. In the context of COVID, it's been terrifying. I tested negative, didn't really believe it. I'm testing again next week. But so I had this dry cough that's supposed to last for 2 weeks, not 4 months. No phlegm, headache. The second week of March when the coughing came on, devastating exhaustion, like I'd been just run over by a truck. Might have been the news, might have been something else. I don't know. And after months of like the zinc and the elderberry and the Chinese medicine, and by the way, I started studying Chinese medicine 25 years ago. So the Chinese herbs and the sunlight and the yoga and the West Coast swing practice and like all the healthy stuff. I was still coughing and still really afraid that I was going to infect somebody or I was going to just turn on a switch and suddenly become desperately sick. So I finally called the teledoc for my insurance company, and the doctor prescribed 5 days of antibiotics and an inhaler. I've never had asthma. I've never needed an inhaler. And it's weird. Like the first time I tried it, I was just high as a kite, spacey, dizzy, had to lie down. And like really, really quickly, the coughing went away and the breathing got better, which is a very good sign because this stuff isn't for viruses. So I'm still going to take the test next week. I'm still wearing a mask around everybody. When the gardeners come, the mask goes on. For their safety as much as for mine, even probably more, because my mask protects other people more than it protects me. And I just got to say, real Western medicine, as messed up as it is, as many really bad doctors as I've seen in my life, when it works, that's why I'm alive today. It is magical. So I'm saying this because I'm seeing a lot of my peers, a lot of my coach peers, a lot of my intuitive peers really going down the rabbit hole of anti-science propaganda. And I don't know what their background is, that they aren't, I don't know if they're not like really checking their sources, and I don't know why they are looking at enormous mountains of verified data and scientists who really aren't making any money on this, who are, when we have 172 studies saying wearing a mask can save our lives, can shut down the virus instead of our economy, that they're still refusing that. They're not bad people. I just, when I hear the really extremist, not healthy, very tinfoil hat conspiracy theories from my friends, who may not be my friends anymore, we'll find out, it's very alarming and distressing, because I am super duper psychic. Like this week I was coaching a client and I just kept seeing her, I just kept thinking, you need to take martial arts classes. But I didn't say it because I know she has such physical challenges. And then when I asked her, so what's next for you? And she says, I'm going to sign up for martial arts classes. Like, well, of course. And that happens all the time. Another client of mine does these card readings on Facebook every day. And one of them was colors. And I picked number 2. And she said, so what's the color of number 2? And I was just thinking fuchsia. And she says, hot pink. Well, of course. I have that sort of elastic relationship with time, in which I tend to run a little fast. I tend to know things before they're spoken, before they happen. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, and by the way, this is not psychic, this is just common sense. I could not imagine that 3 weeks of shutdown would, be all. I actually thought it would be 6 months, that it would land around September if we really complied. Now I think it's, at least in the US, it's going to be far, far longer. And I'm, it's just makes me sad. Oh, Michelle, are you picking up other people's symptoms telepathically? Oh, that's interesting. Michelle does that periodically. I've never thought of that. I've never considered that. When I was a child, I would pick up other people's emotions and I'd wonder why I was so angry when I had nothing to be angry about. And it was the person in front of me. It was just, a sort of exaggerated empathy that a lot of us have. And that, after my car accident, and I'll go deep into the head injury and how that opened up me psychically. Not a good way to get there, let me tell you. But I'll go into that another episode. But over the years, especially with coaching, I see things, I hear things, I smell things, I taste it. It's possible. I don't know. But I don't think that was this, because I've been by myself with my husband, who has not had the symptoms. Hallelujah. So what I wanted to say is, I'm always advocating for trusting yourself and trusting your knowing and trusting your intuition. And the thing about my intuition is, I'm really not attached to being right. If it wasn't pink, I wouldn't have cared. If my client never said the martial arts, it wouldn't have mattered. I hold it very, very loosely, which is why it comes so easily all the time, because I'm not attached to it, and it's informed by data. I think educated guesses have a lot of intuition in them also. And so if your intuition cannot stand up to correction and input of new data that you may not like, there's something broken. There's something broken with that system. Please do not be married to your hunch. I think there's something to a hunch, but your interpretation of it may be off. And I'm only saying that because this is a freaking life and death matter. And I am furiously not wanting to see any more of my friends get sick. Or good people who don't believe in this stuff getting sick and dying, because I'm seeing that. And I don't want that. And this, today is July 3rd. I don't know how relevant this episode is going to be down the line, but today I just had to say that. If your intuition cannot integrate with science, there is something broken with the system of your intuition. Science corrects itself. By the way, this is a big thing that comes up all the time. Is like, but first they said no mask. First they said this. First they said that it spreads by hand. They were wrong. And the great thing about science is they get new information. They go, oh my God, we were wrong. And then we have better information, better science, and we learn more about it. They thought it was a respiratory disease. That's why it's got severe, acute respiratory syndrome, or whatever the SARS stands for. Now it's like blood clots. It melts your lungs. It melts your kidneys. Just your heart. It's just your brain, your neurology. You can't say. It's much bigger, more complicated, because we know more. So that. And by the way, your intuition should flow the same way, should always be adjusting to change and circumstances and new insight, because that is evolution. That is the genius of having rational brains that can take in new information and create new things with it. Last week, somebody asked about manifestation, and oh my God, I forgot to check my inbox, because somebody asked a question last week that I was going to answer this week, and I forgot to check what it is. So if you're watching, please drop it into the chat. Mea culpa, mea culpa. Somebody did write that what I said about manifestation last week didn't work for her. And honestly, there are just a million ways to manifest. But I wanted to speak to that, because I don't even remember what I said a week ago, because I get in the zone and then I don't remember. But I think it had something to do with saying no. And here is the larger principle of manifestation behind that. If you aren't getting what you want and you're pursuing it, not sitting on the couch thinking it, although if that works for you, go for it. Because I have clients who do energetic marketing and clients fall in their lap. And I think that's great. And I also think that we have bodies and we have actions to take too. So if you're not getting the results you want and you're just trying, everything. And I know that there's a whole big thing in my industry and even in me talking about interchange creating results, but I take action too. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. It's not instant poof. And I'm never going to sell you any crap that says I'm going to do it for you. And I know a lot of people sell that and don't deliver, and I think that's creepy. Back to manifestation. And this is just common sense. You don't even have to call it magic. It's just that I see the results are so dramatic and quick sometimes that it feels magical because I can't even explain it. But if you aren't getting results and you're really pursuing something, I always want to see what is in the way. What is in the way? Is it you're in your environment, the people? Maybe you're doing the wrong things. Maybe you're doing it with the wrong people or the wrong vehicle or the wrong language. What is in the way? What, is it the wrong message to the wrong people, the wrong message to the right people, the right message to the wrong people? Like those are outer stuff. What's in the way of what you want, whether it's clients or love or health or whatever? What is in the way? Is it internal? My favorite stuff is internal because, oh my God, that is so quick to fix and the results can last forever and build and build and build, especially if you already, have a basic business structure or whatever it is you're pursuing. Hello. I'm seeing more people coming in. So what is in the way? And when you can find, and it could be several things. And the wonderful thing is maybe you only need to get rid of one for the other things to fall away, or maybe you need to get rid of a few things. But I love to look at what can we remove to reduce the friction so that you can move forward faster, or so things aren't being held back that want to happen. And so when I say to manifest, say no to stuff, get rid of stuff, that is like making you more aerodynamic. It is removing the obstacles. And also in my experience, every removal has an element of death to it. So depending on where you are in the moment, like how big a deal it is to give it up, or where you are on the arc of that relationship with that thing, whether it's accidents or low self-esteem or bad boyfriends or struggling economically, wherever you are on the arc of that relationship with that experience, it could be really easy. Whew, boy, was I ready to let that go. Pop. Or there can be grieving, even for something horrible. Like we grieve the end of our abusive relationships too, because it's a death of a dream of what could have been, what we wanted it to be instead. It's a death of who we became in that relationship. So there's a bit of a death of our own identity. So there's grieving. By the way, that can be some of the friction too. But that's also why I say we never, ever, ever remove anything without putting something better in its place. If you want to give up smoking, for example, first look at the positive, groovy, wonderful things about smoking, or you wouldn't do it if it didn't give you some kind of pleasure or release. So hey, pleasure and release, good things. So let's find a better way to get it so that we can remove the death, the disease, the yellow teeth, the wrinkles, the black tarry lungs, the wheezing, the weakness, and all the ancillary diseases. Let's get rid of those, right? But always be ready and open for something better. And that's how, that is my principle of manifestation, that two things cannot occupy the same space simultaneously. That's a law of physics, which honestly, with quantum physics, everything's a little bit up for debate, but let's just say that we still have that. That's why I say you can't really have the money honey until you get rid of the money monster first. The bed's not big enough for the two of you. The money monster will cock block the money honey. So for manifestation, I would say first thing is get rid of stuff. And there are symbolic ways to get rid of things too. Oh dear. There we go. My screen just like went asleep, but I'm back. I've been, as I think I said earlier, that I've been focusing on life. So I've been gardening for growing vegetables really, really badly because it's my first time. Feeding all these feral cats and the possums. They're like all family to me. I now can feed them with, my back door, kitchen door open, and the baby possum and the baby kitten won't run away. They won't play with me. Well, actually, the baby kitten will play Mousy on a string now. But focusing on life also means getting rid of what doesn't belong, like the weeds, the bad bugs, and replacing them with the good bugs. To really create the energy of life. And if you are gardening, I have found it to be a really great trick, and I've gotten like clients fall out of the air that way, not literally out of the air, to like think about what I'm releasing when I'm weeding. Thinking of bad bugs, I used to apologize every time I stepped on a tick. I don't do that anymore. So yeah, I wanted to talk about manifestation, getting rid of what's in the way. I wanted to talk about intuition and science. And let's take a look. Questions coming in. Woohoo! Imi, I hope I pronounced your name right. Speaking about the money monster, how do you actually do it? First, and anyone who's new to this, go to morganaray.com. Tons of freebies there. My 4-part video series, really nice introduction. Doesn't go in very deep, but gets you started. And I've got hundreds of videos and articles on the topic of money monsters, on the topic of money honeys, on the topic of relationship with money, and other really great topics in my blog. I also have my book that just walks you through all of it because I can't coach 7 billion people, nor do I want to. So I created a book so that you can coach yourself through it. And then I created this to help close the gaps. Also, if you get the book, my website, if you go to the page on my website that says the book, you can type in your name and your email address and your receipt to get bonus audios where I did like a 90-minute or 2-hour, I can't remember, Q&A for people going through it to answer questions that came up. So to Imi, how do you actually do the money monster? I'm not sure if it's created or get rid of it. I didn't get that specifically, but I would say that when people are stuck on the money monster, there are a couple of places that can fall short. So the first one is go deep enough. Go deep enough into what is wrong with the world, not just money. I never, ever find the monster in money itself. It's not the money story. It's the stuff behind the money. It's like money stuff is too on the nose, but the stuff about safety, about love, about worth, that's juicy. Now, if you're in that really panicky place where you don't think you're going to survive, that's very useful. And I still will take the client to stuff that isn't about money because there was stuff before the money issue that we want to, that got you here. And by the way, we want to include systemic racism. Like that stuff doesn't happen in a bubble. We want to include genocide if that's in your family history. We want to include these big things because we want the monster to be big. And then number 2, we want it to be real and personal. So if the monster becomes too cartoonish, that's a way of cutting off the connection. You really want it to feel real. if your parents were monstrous, and that does happen, we don't make the monster your parents. We make the monster kind of the puppeteer who used your parents to hurt you. There's more. Okay. Emmy was severely ill at the age 4, very, very good. Spent years in the hospital. Very, very good stuff. 2 weeks to survive. So your monster tried to kill you from a very, very early age. And you've survived all that and had this strong belief that you'll get better, which you did, and healthier and stronger. Bravo. And I would still use that for money because, and this is the interesting thing, is I typically coach people who are very, very advanced and experienced in personal development, who have already done the work and are real masters, and they have healed trauma, and they may be gurus and well-known leaders on helping other people work through traumas and cults and abuse and healing. And they come to me because money is like the final frontier. After healing issues with body or love, or it's still that money piece is like that next level, because all of our challenges of being human beings shows up there. So it really, and if you didn't get it the first time, that's okay. When I coach a client, especially, I've taken so many women to Bali, and I've coached so many people, thousands of people privately. And I've had clients where we have to go deeper and deeper and deeper in one session, which is why I set aside a whole day for a session, because I may have to go through 7 layers of monsters before we hit it, the thing that allows change to happen, and get rid of that one. So I want you to get it on your own. I really do. And I also want to prepare you that it may go easy and you may need to dig. But I've also worked with really, really difficult people. So if it is not instant easy for you, you have plenty of company with people who got it and got great results. And it's just human. And there's value in every level. Let's take a look. Real is if you can see them real, or should you literally feel fear? Feeling, too, in my book, in my experience, feeling matters the most. The visual is always the last step for me. I love the visual. If you get it, great. Not all of us are primarily visual. I don't know why I saw my monster so easily the first time, or my honey the first time so easily, but it's the feeling that changes things. My theory is because vision is very conscious, very literal, very rational, and we want to be going and speaking really holistically to the below conscious level. And that's where feeling and smell and taste and all these, we want it to be a full body experience, not just an intellectual exercise. So I start with feeling and work my way to visual. And if you never really quite get the specifics of the visual, but it feels real, and other sensibilities are there, like you can hear the monster, smell the monster, feel the monster, have a sense of the size, as much detail as you can put in. And maybe I'll focus on a little body part instead of the whole thing to ease the person in. And by the way, that is true for both the monster side and the honey side. And you're welcome, Susan. So Just checking to see if yeah, I think that I covered all the main points. And I need to see the rest of Hamilton. So if you have more questions, I'm going to wrap this up. You can submit questions during the week to askmorgana.com. And while I'm here in quarantine, encouraging you to stay home, see me Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook at facebook.com Morgana page. And if you want to go deeper into financial alchemy, I got resources for you at morganaray.com. Start with the videos, take the quiz. It's on my homepage. It's also at doesmoneyloveyou.com. And if you want to get started, I recommend my book. Take a look at all those 5-star reviews and miracles and testimonials that happened without me, just with the book alone. And I will get back to you next week. My witches, my women in total command of her powers. Mwah! Namaste.